Here we are. The 7-step pricing strategy. Step 1, identify and gain an understanding of the value ranges that exist in the neighborhood. Step 2, test the logic using expired listings. Step 3, determine the value range most suited for a subject to the home. Step 4, strategically position the subject home within the value range. Step 5, verify the price position chosen satisfies the seller's financial needs. Step 6, analyze all homes directly competing with the subject home. Step 7, determine the most appropriate price entry point based on timing need. See, the 7-step pricing strategy will not reveal a different end price than a typical CMA. It will, however, allow sellers a better opportunity to self-discover the most appropriate end price, which results, by the way, guys, here comes the aha for all of you, which results in fewer objections that we love to talk about and more win-win relationships. Because the seller made a decision. Ultimately, the seller makes a decision if they let go of the property. The buyers determine where the price finally ends up. So if you let them sellers self-discover on their own, and they own it, there'll be less objections and more win-win. See, adopting and mastering the 7-step pricing strategy will take little more time, energy, and effort on your part. However, it is the only approach that ensures 2 very important things: arrival at the appropriate price entry point and complete ownership of the appropriate pricing by the seller. See, determining value. Here we are, guys. Step 1. So we're going to go through what we discussed before. So step 1, identify and gain an understanding of the value range that exists in the neighborhood. Stop saying you're the neighborhood expert. Each time you will get better and better because trends change literally every day, possibly every hour, but the data that we collect is every day. So understand the value ranges in the neighborhood. Step 1 will be the most time consuming because this is where you determine why homes bring certain prices. So note this, your analysis of the value ranges will be much more in-depth and time-consuming than your discussion of the ranges with the sellers, right? So because you spend a lot of time on this, a lot of times agents mistakenly, when they sit in front of the sellers, they think they're wowing the seller by having this 35, 45 minute about pricing. If you drown them in the way I've done in my career in the past, you will lose opportunities. Because if they don't agree with you, if they don't have the same opinion as you, then you just wasted all that discussion, okay, on pricing. So your analysis is so you're aware about what those prices are and you can have that discussion. It should be a shorter discussion. So the price begins by dividing the neighborhood into 3 basic categories. Number 1, high range, homes that bring the most money per square foot. Low range, homes that bring the least money per square foot. Mid range, homes that fall between high and low. Right? That's how you should categorize things: high, low, mid. So you could show the people what's the difference, right? Why did this sell for this high price? Why did it sell for this low? Why did it sell this mid? You know, the reason why this sold for high price is because typically this has, better exposure. It's not on a busy street. It's brick versus frame. That's, those are the high range. Brick sells for higher. These are the things that you need to break down so that when you're having a logical conversation with the seller, you're helping them understand the information. That's why they brought you. They don't see these things every day. That's why they brought you in. So here we go, determining value and a range, right? So here's the procedure when you come into the CMAs, comparative market analysis. It sounds so basic, but if you're not working on this and putting this all together, you are probably wondering why you're being offered less commission. You're wondering why you're pricing it incorrectly, because why? The seller, number 1, hasn't self-discovered and trust that you're giving them all the information they need to make room, especially a reasonable one. Sometimes reasonable sellers are misguided by agents that have not put together reports like this. Now, by the way, remember, I'm going to go back to you and me here, you and me. I've been there before. Let me explain what I mean by that. I've been there before. Sometimes you're doing a ton of lead generation. You can gain, because right, so I'm talking to our brand new agents, our mid-tier agents, and our top agents. Everyone's affected by this. So I was lead generating, and there's a ton of stuff that I was doing, and I didn't have an assistant at the time, so I would just get really sloppy. I was just printing out a couple of sheets here and there, and I would just go to the listing. My conversion rate dropped dramatically because why? When I was less busy, I spent more time preparing. As I got more busy, I stopped preparing or prepared very little. And that was one of the challenges, to get sellers to kind of accept where I'm at. So here we go. Sort the newly created sold summary sheet according to price per square foot, sold high. Draw lines to separate the three value ranges, right? Large, distinct gaps in price, right? Identify the features and combinations thereof that constitute each range, right? So know what features people want in this particular neighborhood or this particular block, right? Do they like new kitchens? Do they like new baths? Everyone does, but do people pay premium prices for new kitchens and baths? Sometimes not, depends, right? If it's a co-op building, a condo building, what amenities need to be really upgraded in those buildings to drive prices higher? Or is something in the building bringing that price down, an outside factor? So note this, the sold summary sheet makes it easier for sellers to identify obvious feature patterns that exist within each range, right? So if it's got a patio or an outdoor space that, has a barbecue, and you're noticing a pattern that, houses sell for premiums when they have a beautiful nice backyard, and it seems more of a private backyard where there's not, not facing the neighbor in the back, right? These are patterns, and that's how you can identify how people why that person got a certain price, and why they can't get the price that they want, or they can get the price they want. Does that make sense? Because sometimes when sellers are just looking on Zillow or looking on just some website to get value pricing, they're confused. They need you to interpret or rather find those patterns to help them. Step 2, test the logical using expireds. Test the logic using expireds, right? Right, so if like 10 houses expired at like 1.5 million for a 3-family home, and now they want to list for 1.5 million, well, hello. Don't you think it's probably going to expire too? Tough conversation. So far, your understanding of the value range is based solely on properties that have sold, or contracted, of course. To build further support and justification for your opinions, you must test the logic on homes that were rejected by buyers. That's the word I would use with sellers. I would say, hey, this has been rejected by buyers. The same logic should apply to both sold and expired listings. So here's the procedure on pulling that CMA out. Determining value. Expired listings represent the consequence of inappropriate pricing. Yes or yes? Large majority is because of inappropriate pricing. Sometimes it is about the picture, sometimes not about an exposure, but a large majority of expired listings, it's inappropriate pricing. You guys know that. Come on. See, most homes expire because they were either listed in the wrong range or incorrectly positioned within the right range. After reviewing the expired summary sheet, this should be obvious. Pay close attention to homes that expired and then later sold. How interesting is that, right? There's so many agents that look like superheroes. Oh, it expired with Bob, the agent, but then Sally got it and sold it within like 1 month. But they forgot to tell you that Sally, when she got the listing, she dropped it by 10% in price, and that was the sweet spot. So that's why Sally sold it. Super Sally. Go on Facebook, Instagram, and WeChat. Whoa, yeah, look, Super Sally, she did some magic. No, Super Sally sat down and helped the seller self-discover they were in the wrong space. Step 3, determine the value range most suited for the subject home. See, now that you're confident with the value ranges and why they exist, identify the range most suited for the subject home. This will be based solely on the features of the subject home. Step 4, strategically position the subject home within the value range. See, most value ranges vary by more than $10 per square foot, so it's important to correctly position the subject home within the appropriate range. Just as features determine a home's range, amenities and home condition dictate its position within the range, right? So now more than ever, when I talk about positioning, it's extremely important. You ask, why is that? So when a listing enters the MLS or enters one of those portals or even one of the company's websites, how are buyers shopping? Pause, think about that for a second. How are buyers shopping? How would you shop as a consumer? How would you shop as a consumer? You're going to gather your data. You're going to eventually believe that you're the expert as the buyer customer, and then you're going to believe, okay, well, I'm going to shop within from this price to that price. Yes or yes? I'm talking to you. Yes or yes? I know it's yes or yes. I know it's yes. So now when you should be describing this picture to the seller that when Betty Buyer shops online, she establishes her range and then just sets it and forgets it and says, tell me, right? She reaches to her phone, tell me, send me properties from Remax.com that price within 500 to 550. Sets it and forgets it because she's busy. She's busy. So you need to have the story with the seller because here's why. If you deviate from what she believes that the pricing is for that area, those serious buyers are not exposed to it now. Why is that? Because new buyers that come into the market, they do this, right? They scroll their phone. That's what new buyers do. That's not what all buyers do. Buyers are busy. Yes, sellers research all the time and then always constant research, but buyers, they research for, I believe, a month or so, right? And then after that, they set it and forget it. And once in a while, they go back to the research, but once in a while, you get lucky selling a house too, right? So you should be describing this situation with the seller because this is something that's more palatable, right? They can visualize the seller. They can relate to that buyer. If they can relate to that buyer, they will self-discover that pricing it incorrectly would be a bad approach because it's the wrong position. It's the wrong position.